Good morning, students. We shall continue with our supplementary readings, that is, moments from that yellow book. Lesson number 5, The Happy Prince. I hope you have completed your question answers up to lesson number 4. So today we shall start with the lesson number 5, The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. He was born on 16th October 1854 and passed away from this earth on 30th November 1900. He was an Irish playwright, essayist, novelist, and a poet. He was fluent in French and German early in life. This Happy Prince has a lot of theme, a lot of messages for us. The first theme would be that the outward beauty is only a show. However you decorate yourself with jewels or your makeup, this outward beauty is only a show. The real beauty, what matters is love and sacrifice. And this love and sacrifice are the two saving forces. That means you can do many good things if you have love and sacrifice. Okay? And another message would be, there is a great gap between rich and the poor, the rulers and the common people. That we know even today, we have so much of gap between rich and the poor. So let us see The Happy Prince. Open your book, page number 28. The Happy Prince was a beautiful statue. He was covered with gold. He had sapphires for eyes and a ruby in his board. Why did he want to part with all the gold that he had and his precious stones? This is the question we have to find out. Here is a statue of a real prince. Okay? Now, the happy prince was a beautiful statue. You have to find out whether this prince was really a happy prince. Though the title is Happy Prince, but at the end of the story, you have to find out whether the prince was really a happy prince. It is actually a beautiful statue. This statue was covered with gold. The full thing was with gold, and he had sapphires for eyes. Sapphires is nothing but the blue precious stone that is called sapphires, and ruby in his sword. Sword, that you see in the picture here. You can see in your book. The ruby is nothing but it's a dark red color precious stones again. But then, in spite of having all these riches, all these precious things on his body, this king wants to part with all the gold that he had and all the precious stones. Why? We have to find out. Okay? Follow the book. High above the city on a tall column stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes he had two bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. See here. On a high above the city, above the city where everyone can see from below, a tall column. Column is nothing but a pillar. A stand, one stand is made to keep the statue. And there was a statue of whom? A happy prince. And this prince was gilded all over. Gilded means covered with. Okay? Gilded. He was shining with what? Thin lips of fine gold. That means whole body was covered with the thin leaves of fine gold. And the eyes, here his two eyes were with what? Bright sapphires. I told you sapphires is blue precious stones, no? So it worked as two eyes. Then also he had a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. Sword hilt means where the sword is being kept hanging here. Okay, that's called sword hilt. It was the large red ruby. It glowed on his sword hilt. Glowed means glowing. It was shining. Okay. One night, there flew over the city a little swallow. His friends had gone away to Egypt, 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind. Then he decided to go to Egypt too. Now, we are the migratory birds, they will migrate from one place to the other. Now, here is a swallow. Swallows are those small birds. Usually, these swallows you will find in the houses also, they will come inside. That the swallows. So, this swallows, little bird, it flew over this particular city where this statue was, this Happy Prince statue was, because he was all alone. This bird was left all alone. His friends had gone away to Egypt already 6 weeks before. But then this bird alone had stayed behind, and now he too decided to go to Egypt. He wants to go to Egypt. He wants to migrate to Egypt. Now, follow the book. All day long he flew, and at night time he arrived at the city. Whole day he was flying, and now at night he came in the city. At night he has to stay back. He has to stay, he cannot fly because he cannot see. Now, where shall I put up? He said. Who said this? The bird is telling. Where shall I put up? Put up means I have to stay at night. Put up. Where shall I stay at night? I hope the town has made preparations. I hope this town has some preparation, some places there for me to stay. Then he saw the statue on the tall column, on the tall stand or the pillar. He could see a tall statue. I will put up there, he cried. No, he was so happy to see. I will put up on the statue. Usually these swallows, they will make their nest even in the house. Any little place if they get, they will make. So naturally, when he saw the statue, he was so happy. He said, I will put up there. It is a fine position with plenty of fresh air, because on the top of the hill, you see. So he alighted just between the feet of the Happy Prince. Alighted meaning he came down. Okay, he came down, he alighted between the feet of the Happy Prince, in between. Here probably, okay. Now, I have a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked round. You see, naturally he was so happy because everything was with gold and precious stones. So he said, I have a golden bedroom. He wants to sleep there. He wants to remain there. He said, this is for him, it is a bedroom, you see. And he looked around and he prepared to go to sleep. Okay, he told himself that I have a golden bedroom, and so he prepared to go to sleep. But just as he was putting his head under his wing, a large drop of water fell on him. What a curious thing, he cried. There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it's raining. You see, the bird prepared to sleep. Whole day he was flying, and therefore it was tired. Now he was preparing to sleep, but he was putting his head under his wing. If you have seen how the birds sleep, you see, they would put their head under their wings. And that time, preparing to sleep, a large drop of water fell on him. And he was very curious. He was interested to know what a thing it is. He cried, he made noise. There is not a cloud. Without cloud, how rain is going to fall? The stars are quite clear. If this is cloudy, rainy season, no stars can be seen. Sky should be dark. But in fact, now the sky is quite clear and bright, and still it's raining. And as he was questioning himself, another drop fell. Then another drop fell. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off? He said. I must look for a good chimney pot. And he determined to fly away. Now he's telling, if this statue cannot keep, because imagine he has kept his his shelter in between 2 feet here, then statue should be able to keep him. It should keep away the rain also from falling here, no? And saying, what is the use if this statue cannot keep the rain off? Now I must look for some good chimney pot. Somewhere I must go. And so he determined, he was determined. He was convinced to fly away. Okay? He wanted to go away. This page, next page. Yes. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell. And he looked up and saw. What did he see? See, when he saw third drop falling, now his curiosity was something very great, and see what he see. The eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow was filled with pity. You see, what was the rain? It was not a raindrop. When he looked up, when the third drop fell, the bird, the swallow, looked up. And what did he see? He saw the eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears. Can you imagine? And the tears were running down his golden cheeks, and from there it was falling down. And his face was so beautiful that this bird, this swallow, could see through the moonlight. And he felt so pity. Why this prince would be crying? Who are you? He said. Who said this? Who is asking this? Swallow is asking to the prince. Who are you? I am the happy prince, said the prince. You see, the conversation started between the prince and the bird. Why are you weeping then? Another word for crying. Why are you weeping? Weeping is to weep, is to cry. Okay, why are you weeping then? Why are you crying then? Asked the swallow. Because prince, they will never cry. The prince, king, and all these people, they will never cry. They have everything. They have all the riches. There no question of crying. You see, why are you weeping then? Asked the swallow. You have quite drenched me. Drenched me means you have made me wet, drenched with the water. No, I am wet with your tears. Why are you crying? Now answer. What answer the prince is giving? Pay attention. Full paragraph we will read first. When I was alive and had a human heart, answered the statue, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace, where sorrow is not allowed to enter. My courtiers called me the happy prince, and happy indeed I was. So I lived, and so I died. And now that I am dead, they have set me up here so high that I can see the ugliness and all the misery of my city, and though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. You see the reason why he is crying. He is answering to this swallow. He is telling, when I was alive, naturally alive and human heart, he is telling, I didn't know what tears are, because he had no chance to cry, because he was very happy. He lived in the palace. He is telling, you see, I lived in a palace. Whatever he wanted, he got. No sorrow is allowed to enter. There was no sorrow, no sadness at all, no lacking of anything. And the courtiers called him happy. Courtiers, those who are in the court, all the people, they called him happy prince. They have given the name happy prince or lucky prince. You see, because prince, they don't know what sadness is. And he is telling, of course I was happy. Happy indeed I was. He is telling, I was happy and happily lived and also died happily. And now that he is dead, what happened? They have they have kept him on the top so high that now he could see the ugliness and all the misery of my city. He is telling, you see, all the ugliness, all the bad thing he can see, and the miserable life that people are living, he could see from the top, because he is on the top. And though my heart is made of lead, with that iron, he is telling, I cannot choose but weep. I can't control myself looking at the suffering, the pain, the misery of the people. Now, all that time when I was alive, I did not see. But now that I am on the top of the hill, on the top of the column that they have put me here, I can see the misery, the sadness, the ugliness of the people. And now I can't choose anything but weep. I can't help. What? Is he not solid gold? Said the swallow to himself. He was too polite to make any personal remarks. You see, the swallow is telling, what? Is he not solid gold? Because he is talking. You see, the statue started talking. He's telling, it is not a solid gold. It's a gold. How can he speak? You see? And so telling he did not want to make any personal remarks. He was so too polite. Very polite person. Whom is called polite? Very lot of manners. Very polite. He was too polite. Far away, continued the statue. Now statue started to talk, Statue in a low musical voice. Far away in a little street, There is a poor house. One of the windows is open, and through it I can see a woman seated at a table. Her face is thin and worn, and she has a coarse red hands, all pricked by the needle, for she is a seamstress. She is embroidering flowers on a satin gown for the loveliest of the queen's maids of honor to wear at the next court ball. In a bed in the corner of the room, her little boy is lying ill. He has a fever and is asking his mother to give him oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river water, so he is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? My feet are fastened to this pedestal, and I cannot move. The first sorrow or the misery or the poverty of the people that the prince is watching. What he is telling? He is telling, you can see there, far away in a little street, there is a house, and the one window is open. And the prince could see through this window. What he can see? This window, through the window, there is a woman, a poor woman, sitting at the table. She is so thin, very thin and very sad, and she had a coarse red hand. Coarse and very rough. Okay, and she is a seamstress. Seamstress means the female tailor. She is making some dresses for the ladies especially. That's called seamstress. And her fingers are all pricked by the needle because she is doing no embroidery work, and therefore it's pricked, pricked by the needle. She is doing all embroidery work. She is a seamstress here. And she's making she's embroidery work, with the needle and thread. They will do, the ladies, embroidering flowers on a satin gown for the loveliest of queen's maids of honor to wear at the next court ball. In the courts, court mean not high court. Okay, we are talking about the palace. Okay, the king's court. There will be time and again they will organize the court ball, the parties, and there this queen's maid servants would be wearing this loveliest of gowns, and they will dance. For that purpose, this woman is making dresses. But then she is so much making dresses, so much so that her fingers are pricked by the needle. And on the bed in the corner of the room, her little son is lying ill. He is sick. Her son is sick. He has a fever and asking his mother to give him some oranges. But then his mother has nothing to offer him. No oranges, no money. From where he will get the oranges. And so he has nothing but then giving what? River water. So that boy is crying. And this prince is so much sad. And so now he's telling, swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? Meaning to say, take the ruby from my sword hilt. That means for the sword cover, there is a near on the sword there is a ruby, there is a precious stone. Take it out and go and give to this woman. Because why he himself cannot go and give? Because he is telling you, the last line, my feet are fastened to this pedestal and I cannot move. He is imprisoned. Fastened means tied up. Fastened means to tied up on this pedestal. Pedestal means on this platform, on this stand, and I cannot move. It is tied up naturally, and so it is a statue. It cannot move. I cannot move. This is what he is telling. Now, what does this swallow replies? You see, what swallow is replying? He is telling, I am waited for in Egypt, said the swallow. My friends are flying up and down the Nile and talking to the large lotus flowers. Soon they will go to sleep. He is telling, I am on my way to Egypt. I cannot do this work. My friends are flying up and down in the Nile, river Nile, in Egypt. And they are talking to large lotus flowers, so beautiful. And soon they will go to sleep. So what is trying to tell? I cannot do this work. We will continue tomorrow. Thank you, students.